warm. And I was thinking that, I mean, isn't this a spoil with energy, with power? I was thinking. Could one do like this instead? Let's test this idea and see what you think about it. We move people. So it's always exactly 20 degrees where people are. We move all people around the whole world to a place where it's 20 degrees. And then when it gets summer and even hotter at this place, we move them to another place where it's 20 degrees. Then we can skip all the air conditioners and we can skip all the radiators. And we can save a lot of energy. What would you think about this? Isn't this absolutely brilliant?
Way back.
Sorry?
Way back.
Yes. Yes. Do you think we would save any energy? You say no?
I think we would need energy to move people around. I think we would need more energy to move people around than to air condition and to...
I didn't think of that. So, yeah, true. But are you sure that that would take more energy than all the air conditionings? Because this only has to happen now and a while to move people, but the air conditioners, they run all the time. And the radiators in Sweden, they all the time too.
I think I cannot say I'm sure, but since it has not happened, it has never happened, so I think maybe it's...
But if it hasn't happened, do you always say this to people who have new ideas? Well, it isn't realized yet, so your idea might not be good.
I say maybe you should do an analysis first.
Good, correct answer. I'm sorry to bother you, I was only kidding, of course. Yes, I mean, and you shouldn't have to prove my idea. I would have to prove it myself. I would have to make the analysis, of course. I would have to make the analysis and prove that this is quite a good idea. But it's novel, don't you think? It's relatively novel, at least. But I would have to put it in a convincing way with the help of you and others. Of course. But to question, and that's why I also commented when you said that no one has thought about this before, so it might not be a good idea. I think we should try instead to see if no one has done this before, perhaps this is a very good idea.
Can you think at a very logic way?
Excuse me?
A bit logical way.
Think logically.
Think logically.
Yeah, should we involve logic as well? For example, maybe we can think that the capacity could be overloaded capacity at that time for the country itself, which is 20 degrees.
Yes.
So how the other country, which is at different degree level, maybe it's under capacity.
Yeah.
So when over capacity, could be the cost, could be the traffic, could be the jet. At the end, the heat will come out, it will go up, then it will affect another problem then.
Yes. Although I agree with you fully, of course. Although I think that logic also has its limits. Because there needs to be a lot of creativity, and creativity could be harmed by logic sometimes, I think. But of course, I mean, when I come up with this idea, and that's what you already have started to do now, you have started to review my paper about how to move people. And this is what will happen to your papers too when you submit them to journals. And this is what must happen. It is good that we have reviewers who send you feedback. I belong to the people who happen to think that the feedback should be put in a constructive way, even if it's very negative, because it should be helpful for the person who gets the criticism. but the feedback in itself is very helpful. And it helps. Ideas like my stupid idea of moving people, which might not be that stupid after all, should be criticized. It has to be criticized. And I could get much help from you who said, for instance, suggested that we should do an analysis. That's a very good idea. I have to do an analysis, and I have to compare, and I have to reason logically with your help to get me more. And then I could present a paper about this brilliant idea, I think myself, which is both novel and convincing. This is the clue, actually, I would say. Convincing. I think for me, the novelty is more fun. And to make it convincing is the harder, not so fun task. But for some people, it's the other way around. They don't have any ideas, but they love to argue for things, to find good arguments, to prove things. And an ideal combination of authors could be one person like me who has many crazy ideas, and another person who is good at arguing for them. That could be a very good combination to write things together. Yes, connect to an ongoing debate and try to stick to one debate. There are too many papers, I think, which focus on too many things. Let's say that I'm going to write about leadership in Malaysia from a Muslim perspective, the leadership in the university, and not any university, but leadership, Muslim leadership in Asia, in Malaysia, at universities, business schools, especially. There are too many factors. Try to stick to one thing to write about. What is leadership in Asia, or what is leadership at universities, or what is typical for Muslim leadership? Try to stick to one debate. And by the way, I would like to take the opportunity to tell you something, that when it comes to this conference that I am organizing, and this thing that most theories are developed in the western part of the world, are they really applicable universally? I think that when I have talked to people here in Malaysia, they have showed me their work, and it says, almost always it says Malaysia in the title. This is an example of leadership in Malaysia. And I think, is this an example of leadership in Malaysia? Or is it an example of leadership in the world? Perhaps, I mean, when people from the United States write about leadership, they don't write about leadership in the United States. It has a limited impact because this is only about the United States. No. They write about like if they were the world. They write about leadership. This is leadership. Well, we have based it on a study here in the United States, but this is leadership. And then we export this article or book to all parts of the world. But when people in Malaysia write, they, for some reason or another, they assume that this might only be applicable in Malaysia. That's a little bit humble in a way. But perhaps it's also a little bit too humble. Why couldn't you also write about leadership in the world from a study made in Malaysia? Just like the American people do. Something to think about, I think. Because then you would have a more general